Hello, everyone, and welcome to Property Perspective. So today, we are going to be talking about the challenges that we're facing in real estate construction. And as usual, we have the privilege of having Matthieu Arseneau with us. So hello, Matthieu.
Hello, Nancy.
So you'll be talking to us about what's happened in the last couple of weeks regarding the macroeconomics that are affecting our environment, our economy on a daily basis. And we have a new guest today, so Guy Dallaire. Hello, Guy.
Hello, Nancy.
So Guy is Vice President in 1859 Commercial and Real Estate Construction. So you'll be giving us very interesting insight as to what's happening in the world of new constructions.
Absolutely.
So without further ado, Matthieu, I'll start with you. Of course, economists are focusing on inflation, and it's been the case for many, many months. We know that the central bank here in Canada, but everywhere in the world, banks are trying to resolve this issue. It's not working that well in Canada, is it?
No, there's no good news on that front since our last talk. When you look at the last two release of CPI in Canada, in fact, it was a disappointment for economists and a disappointment for the central bank as well. Back in June, it was interesting to see headline inflation, so annual inflation being in the target range that the Bank of Canada want to see it, so at 2.8%. But since then, it registered a significant rebound. A rebound was expected because of last year's base effect, but clearly there has been the impact of energy prices rising with the OPEC production cut announced in the current context. But that's not the only reason for this rebound, and that is the big disappointment. In fact, when you look in August, all the 8 major components were rising above the central bank target. So that was widespread across the economy in 1 month, in August, but still a concern for the central bank. If you look on that chart, you can see that core inflation, when economists talk about core inflation, is when you remove all the more volatile components each month to get a view on the underlying trend. You can see that it was stuck in the 3.54% band since last August. That was already a concern for the central bank, not seeing it coming back to the 2%. And can you imagine how they react when they saw that bouncing back to 4.5%? Of course, that's the probability of a rise in rates increased due to this report that we got in August. But still, there's further data that will come out before the next decision, but still the probability of a rate hike increase over the past few weeks.
Yeah, so if I hear you correctly, the last time we spoke, there was not any increase, so we were sort of happy. Now that we see the August numbers, 99% of the chances it will go up next time, 25 beeps, 50 beeps. What do you think?
For the moment, when we look at the expectation of market, it's only 50% probability of a 25% rate hike. So we are close to the top, the top of the top of rate that we expect to get in this cycle. But we have to keep in mind that inflation is a lagging indicator, and that's my concern. So yes, August was strong, and it was strong this summer given the energy situation that I just mentioned. But at the same time, and that's the dilemma for the central bank, on one side, inflation is strong, but the economy is showing clear weaknesses since the start of the year. There has been disappointment on that front. And on the same week that we got the information for that rebound of inflation, we got very, very poor data on retail sales in Canada. So when you look on nominal retail sales, it looks like resilient, not booming, but stable. Oh, when you look, we corrected for inflation to see the real purchase of households. You can see that it's a downward trend since the start of the year. And if you look at it on a per capita basis, because there's a population boom and you want to see how, in fact, the monetary policy impact household individually, you can see that it's on a downward trend since 2021. So yes, the tightening in monetary policy is impacting the economy, is impacting the consumer, and we can see that on that chart. So big decision to take. Inflation still strong, but clear weakness that we are currently seeing in the Canadian economy. So the Bank of Canada need to be very careful, especially that we are currently seeing the slowdown that will continue based on the last survey, CFIB survey. That's a survey that has been done. They are looking at the intention and perception of small businesses. And what we can see there, it's a big switch that occurred over the past few weeks. In fact, since 2021, shortage of unskilled labor was a more concerning versus insufficient domestic demand. But now there has been a switch. No more unskilled labor shortages. And what I'm concerned about now, it's the vigor of the domestic economy. So in such a context, the Bank of Canada need to be very careful given the weakness that we are currently seeing.
And when you see that, how is this affecting what some people are now calling the housing crisis in Canada?
That's a very, very difficult situation for housing. We already talked about it in our prior talks. There has been a significant rebound in home sales given the population boom. And we are seeing home prices, a rebound in home prices, and we are now essentially back to where we were at the peak in 2022 before the rate hike. So at 2% of the level that we saw back then. So this, the rebound in home prices combined with the rebound in mortgage rates, which are the highest in more than 20 years in Canada for the 5-year rate, we experienced an improvement in affordability over the past 3 quarters. But we're going to see a deterioration in Q3 given the current context for homeowner. And it's not better for the rental market when we look at the CPI rent. So rent are increasing at that moment at 6.5% year over year. We didn't see that since the 80s in the context of very, very low vacancy rate. So this is a very, very difficult situation. Affordability is tough on both sides. So for homeowner, to get access to a property and to get a rent. So the problem is that this is one of the components of the CPI. So pushing inflation up, leading the Bank of Canada to increase rates, and this is a disincentive for construction. So that's a big problem at this point. And Guy will talk about it in a couple of minutes.
Yes. So we're sort of stuck in a spiral right now. Yeah. That's what I hear from you. But Guy, maybe you can tell us a bit about the landscape in new housing, new constructions?
Yeah, absolutely, Nancy. So the challenges, the biggest challenge that we face right now is really about the gap between the demand and the offer. So the demand is extremely strong as we speak right now with everything that we're seeing and what Matthieu was telling us about the increase of population in Canada. And on the other side, the supply is really reducing as we speak because of various factors like the increase of interest rate and so on, and the impact of all the inflation that we are living right now as we speak. So basically, the gap between supply and demand, this is the biggest impact that we can see right now in the market.
And in your opinion, what is the cause of this slowdown?
Well, there's multiple factors that we can look at. First, interest rate hikes. This is definitely one of them. The rise as well of all the cost construction that we're seeing right now in the market. Since the beginning of COVID, those cost construction has risen very, very much. And second and third, it's really, and the one that I think it's really important here is the delay of obtaining permit from the different level of government authorities to reduce And it takes so much time right now for a builder to obtain those permits so they can start construction. These different aspects is definitely affecting the slowdown as we speak right now.
Okay, but we need a couple of good news or good ideas.
Yep.
So are there any solutions that we could implement so that we could accelerate?
Absolutely. I think that it will need really a very big teamwork between all different level of authorities, whether it's the different level of government authorities, whether it's coming from municipalities, whether it's coming from the federal government or provincial government. As an example, you know, we will, the federal government announce the reduction of the GST for the new construction regarding multi-residential properties. This is definitely a good aspect on that side. The stabilization of interest rate, I think this will be a key factor as well. But what Matthieu is telling us, inflation is still going up. So definitely this is kind of a catch-22. Inflation is going up, interest rates should go up at the same time. So it's going to be quite challenging on that side of it. And if we continue about stabilization of the interest rate, the different level, like National Bank, you know, we're here to support our clients and so on. So talking about that stabilization, we launched a couple of months ago our green initiative, right? So it's going to be really important for us to focus on that aspect and bring our customer to build new homes where they're going to have that green component. That way we're going to be able to give to those new builders kind of a stabilization of interest rate, give better offer of like better amortization and so on. So these are the different aspects that we can definitely work on. And I think that could be kind of the possible solution to go forward and improve the current situation that we're living right now.
Yeah, those are very, very good points. And I mean, even though today this little moment is a little bit darker than the others, I mean, it's only a period of time, right? And we still need to go back to the basics and the other videos that we filmed together, you know, increase your savings, use the vehicles that exist to you know, like the City app, which gives the opportunity to save money in taxable vehicle, so non-taxable vehicles. So those are things that we can do for now. And there are still buildings going up there. I mean,
Absolutely.
Just look out the window.
Yep.
So it still will happen. And I think your point in working together with all the different level of governments could definitely make a difference. Yep. And Matthieu will know about the interest rate increases in our next little video. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Nancy.
And thank you, Guy, as well.
Thank you, Nancy.
Hope to see you soon. Thank you for being here.